It's Tuesday, July 21, and this is your Barbados Today Evening News Update. Legislators today stamped their approval on the long-awaited Integrity in Public Life Act, which seeks to equally put a stop to and punish corruption by politicians, senior public figures, as well as high-ranking officials in state-owned enterprises. The groundbreaking legislation mandates these officials to declare their assets. Prime Minister Mia Mottley, who piloted the bill, stressed that a system must be put in place to keep people accountable, but she stressed there must be fairness. She made it clear that people's personal affairs will not be subject to public scrutiny.
But what we do is to ensure that those who are under a duty of confidentiality have the ability to review and to ensure that there is no improper gain or unreasonable accumulation of wealth that cannot be explained. And that's all this is intended to do. It's also intended to bring order to the receipt of gifts. It is intended to bring order as well to those things that could not otherwise be explained by reason of how you've gotten it. So that, and we started this bill as well, I must tell you, for example, with whistleblower provisions and other things, but we took a determination that separate legislation will come for that, just as separate legislation is coming for corruption and for corruption and terrorism related activities.
The anti-corruption legislation does not include High Court and Appeal Court judges at this stage. However, the Prime Minister made it clear that it is her desire to have all members of the bench submit declarations of assets.
I accept the concerns. I accept that you cannot impose it on persons who are already on the bench, although I would like to think that they would want to volunteer their declaration of assets, recognizing that the country which they have the honor of serving is one that has this particular set of characteristics about it, and fairness and accountability and transparency are those things that we want to be able to do. And you know, there are times when fairness hurts. There are times when transparency hurts. There are times when accountability hurts. But we all know that in the long run, that which appears to hurt is ultimately better for us because it lays the platform of trust. T-R-U-S-T. And trust is the most important virtue of human beings living in a collective.
Another major talking point in the House today was the Barbados Welcome Stamp that allows people from around the world to live and work remotely here for up to a year. In her contribution to the debate on the Remote Employment Bill 2020, Prime Minister Mia Mottley said once the legislation is approved, government will begin assessing applications from as early as this weekend. However, there's been some suggestions making the rounds on social media that the initiative does not make provision for members of the LGBT community. Mottley put the issue to rest.
As long as I am Prime Minister of this nation, we welcome all, everyone. And that this country that has been forged, regrettably, in the bowels of discrimination, cannot now want to discriminate against anybody for any reason. All must breathe. All must breathe in this world. All must breathe in this country. And to that extent, Mr. Speaker, the incident which, and we get it, there are difficult discussions that we must have as a nation, and now is not the time to have those discussions. But what I do know is that the member for St. Peter has a bill before this honourable chamber that says that there shall be no discrimination on any grounds in the workplace. And that debate will probably start later today. No discrimination on the grounds of race, no discrimination on the grounds of age, no discrimination on the grounds of colour, no discrimination on the grounds of gender, no discrimination on the grounds of sexual orientation.
Mixed reaction to yesterday's strong warnings from the COVID-19 czar that businesses and members of the public who flout the government's COVID-19 protocols will face severe action. Last evening, Richard Carter warned that places of entertainment and public markets that fail to comply run the risk of being shut down, while public service vehicles who violate the rules could be pulled off the road. Communications and Marketing Officer of the Alliance Owners of Public Transport, Mark Haynes, urged PSV operators and commuters to fully comply. But he said the move is far too harsh.
I am diametrically opposed to the threat of having the vehicles being pulled off the road once they are found to be in breach of the current COVID-19 protocols. They should be stopped and given a warning once there is evidence of any infringements. In a simultaneous manner, the owners of the vehicles should be called into a meeting and advised of the warning and infringements. Once breaches persist subsequent to the official warning, then there should be temporary punishment. Any action other than this will be too draconian and needs to be revisited immediately.
Barbados Today also visited the Bridgetown Fisheries Complex and spoke to fisher folk. They're fully behind the protocols.
Corona seems to be back, and if you have to wear the mask protocol, then you have to wear the mask. All other parts of the world request the mask, and that is what it is. That is what it is. I have not a problem wearing the mask because I work at the fish markets for health, and you got to do what the higher authorities say to do. It's not what you want to do, but it's what they require of us to do.
Well, the market fall under all the rest of the government rules. If the government got the rules for supermarkets, as I heard, they were talking, they said even the minivan people can be in trouble. So we as market vendors, boat owners, etc. that enter in the market, even the customers supposed to come in and they're supposed to carry their mask. Me, I have a mask. I never stopped wearing my mask. I got a mask for every one of my working shirts, a different color for every day. So I got 2 bottles of hand sanitizer. I put one of them is a small red hand sanitizer that I carry. I put one in my back pocket, or although I going into other places that have sanitizer, I walk with that sanitizer, because when you go to a place and you just do something with your hand, that sanitizer, some of them don't be like 99% alcohol. So within if you're in there long, it's gonna wear off and you can be touching different surfaces and things. So still walk with your sanitizer to be on the safe side, wear your mask and follow the law.
The notice supposing to wear a mask, wear the mask. If you know what you got to do, nobody shouldn't got to come here to threaten the body or tell them they ain't to do this or to do that, because you already know. The important, if you don't know, you ain't know, but when you know, it make all the difference in the world.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To regional happenings, Jamaican Prime Minister Andrew Holness today announced that his government will be seeking to extend state of emergencies across several parishes, which will expire in the coming days in a bid to keep a lid on crime.
I wish to signal today that we will be asking for an extension of the SOEs. We have found them to be quite effective, and we have found it to be a very useful framework under which joint operations or separate operations could be undertaken by the Jamaica Defense Force. And that framework has assisted the government's crime-fighting strategy in ensuring that we are able to, as Lieutenant General Meade has said, flatten the crime curve.
On the international front, U.S. President Donald Trump signed a memorandum today that would prevent migrants who are in the United States illegally from being counted when the U.S. congressional voting districts are next redrawn, triggering swift rebukes from Democrats and threats of litigation. More in this report from Reuters Television.
President Donald Trump signed a memorandum on Tuesday that would prevent migrants who are in the United States illegally from being counted when U.S. congressional voting districts are next redrawn, triggering swift rebukes from Democrats. U.S. Census experts and lawyers say the action is legally dubious and not easily executed in practice. In theory, it could benefit Trump's Republican Party by eliminating the largely non-white population of migrants in the United States illegally, creating voting districts that skew more Caucasian. It could also cause populous states with large immigrant contingents to lose seats in the 435-member U.S. House of Representatives, including big left-leaning states like California and New York. Redistricting, in which voting districts are redrawn to reflect changes in the population, is next slated for 2021, after the results of the 2020 U.S. Census are in. Each state will be given a share of the 435 congressional seats based on population. Historically, the distribution of seats has been based on total population, regardless of immigration status. Trump's memo would exclude those not in the U.S. legally.
That's news, but for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media and bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.